Okay, as I read this problem, the first thing I would do is, I'm going to try to visualize what they're saying over here. So, I'm always doing, I'm always drawing a line, right? I'm always doing it, all right? Put the line down for you. The other thing I'm going to visualize, I know there's distances here, but I want to visualize this angle first and then maybe kind of understand what this means to me. And 49.5, I'm going to say roughly about 50 degrees, all right? Now, granted, if you had better measuring devices, and this is kind of crude, I'm using a very crude, it's about 50, right? So I'm going to draw my little line in over here, all right? Let's not worry about it so much. I can get my eraser out over here. And I want to put the angle in for you. This angle over here, 49.5 degrees. Let me pull this on the side a little bit better. Okay. So it says the angle BAC. So BAC. All right? I get that part covered, by the way. So I know the angle BAC is 49.5 degrees. All right, so I'm going to, start like talking about the other things I got over here. So determine the distance between A and B. Well, I do see that now. All right, I'll put this over here. This is the distance they want. All right? So determine the distance between A and B. What they did was to determine the distance between the points A and B, and the surveyor chose a point C. I do see that. That's 375 yards from A. And let me see if I can, kind of measure out what 375 would look like to me. All right, so let me pull that over here, and I'll push that up a little tiny bit. So I'm going to, again, use those chunky marks there. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to say maybe over here about. All right, so they chose that. I'm going to get my eraser out. I'm going to label that. Got my eraser, right? This distance over here is 375 yards. Okay? So let me read that again to you. So determine the distance between 2 points A and B. I don't know the distance. Surveyor chose point C. I see C. C's over here. That's 275 yards from the A and 530 yards from B. All right? Now, granted, I'm going to put the line over here. And by the way, this is a crude picture. I'm not saying it's one I could measure from it. It's something like this over here. All right? Get this post over here. So they say that this distance here they measured out was 530 yards. All right? So I think I pretty much have enough information here to try to figure this thing out. And someone says, I don't even know what you're figuring out over here. I got to figure something out. All right? So I'm going to say, let's get rid of my ruler, and let's label it up. This is side C. This is side A. And this is side B. Now remember, you're on the exam. Right, you're on the exam, all right? So determine the distance between the points A and B. I got to get C, by the way. So the way I would do that, looking at it, and you have to think about it, all right? So I'm going to start thinking about it. The first thing I'll do is think about is that if I'm going to use the law of sines, I want to play it safe. Someone says, what do you mean you want to play it safe? I want to pick the smallest possible angle so there's no confusion. I would not pick C because my crude picture, I'm not really sure what C is. It could be a little bit bigger than 90. It could be smaller than 90. I just don't know from my crude picture. But B, I know, is clearly an acute angle. So what I want to write down is I want to write down sine of B. By the way, we're doing problem number 8. Sine of B over 375 equals, and this is what you expect to do on the exams, by the way. I'm going to say sine of 49.5 make sure I did that right, over 530. I want to get B, and let me write this down for you. Sine of B is going to be 375 times a sine 49.5 degrees over 530. So I think I know what B is. I'll write this over here. B is equal to the arc sine. It's kind of tough to write down, though. And what I mean by that is I'm actually going to put a box on this, not as an answer, by the way, but as something incredibly important. All right, and B is going to be an angle, by the way. All right, I'm going to put a box in this. It's going to be checkered, by the way. Now, someone says, why do you do that? I want to bring it to your attention that this is really an important number for me, that B is important. What I want to do is write down C, by the way. And someone says, how would you do that? Well, I know that 180 degrees is equal to A plus B plus C. I know that much. Now, someone says, what do you want to get? I want to get C. And what's C going to be equal to? 180 degrees minus A minus B. All right? I'm going to write that down now. C is equal to 180 degrees minus A. I know A to be 49.5, by the way. By the way, I don't want to write B over again. And the reason for that, you notice I got it in the checkered thing. So I'm going to put B down. So this is what C is. Put this in the checkered box as well. You notice I don't have access to a computer on the exam, so that's why I'd write my answer down, right? Then someone says, what do you want to do? I want to get length C. How would I do that? Well, I'm going to use the law of sines. And let me write that down for you. So it's going to be the sine of C. By the way, I'm not writing down what C is. It's in the checkered box, by the way. Length C is equal to, well, let's take a look. Sine, nope, not sine, sorry about that. 530. That's 530 over the sine of 49.5 degrees. I think I can write C down now. C will equal 530 times the sine of C over sine 49.5 degrees. What's the unit on that? Yards. I'll put a box in that. That's side C. Okay, let's just review what I did and what's important in my key as I'm writing things down over here. I didn't use a calculator. However, if you're going to use a calculator, you would have to calculate B. There'd be a number there. The next thing you'd have to calculate is you'd have to calculate C. C depends on B. If you don't know B, you can't calculate C. So that's why we got the B. But if you know the B, the C is very easy to compute. And you can have that in your calculator. You just type it in. You got it. And then what do? You type this in for the final thing. So let's write this down. This is first. You got to get that. This is the second thing you get. And this would be the final or third thing. All right? If you do that, though, all those steps we just went through, you're going to find out what C is, and let's go over that, this number over here. If you're not getting these numbers, though, right, what I mean by that, after you use your computer, something's wrong with either what you're computing or what you're doing, and make sure you can follow what's been done here, all right? On exams, though, you're not expected to do computations that are difficult. Like I would not expect someone to take the arc sine of that ratio, 375 times sine of 49.5 by 530. It's just too much work. I wouldn't expect it. All right, write down it though. Write it down. Thank you.